The Invisible Prison. How to break free from the tyranny of your own thoughts. Imagine an ordinary person. She wakes up, reaches for her phone, quickly checks a stream of messages and social media, and already feels a familiar, low-grade discomfort. Perhaps a spike of anxiety, perhaps a faint, nagging sense of failure. She doesn't even consciously realize it, but her mind is already under a quiet, insidious attack. A thought arises. You're late again. You never managed to stick to a proper routine. Another thought follows. Look how well everyone else is doing. You're still stagnating right where you started. These thoughts didn't ask for permission to enter her awareness. They arise automatically, like emotional reflexes. And the most immediate, most profound danger is this. She believes them. She accepts them without questioning, without investigating, without even realizing that she is completely under the influence of something that is fundamentally not her. What this person, and what most people never truly discover, is that these thoughts are not just harmless comments. They are commands. They instantaneously shape emotions. They rigidly define behaviors. They ruin critical decisions. They actively sabotage deep-seated dreams. And the most insidious part of this internal conspiracy, they do all of this while flawlessly disguised as absolute truths. This is the inescapable trap of the modern mind. An invisible psychological prison where the shackles are not made of cold iron, but of internal language. Psychiatrist Beck, the revolutionary founder of cognitive therapy, CT, made a singular discovery that completely changes the way we must view the mind. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer, the silent awareness that simply witnesses these passing mental events. It seems simple, almost trivial, but this distinction, this tiny, critical gap, is the fine line between true psychological freedom and profound emotional imprisonment. Because when you automatically accept the thought, I am a failure, you are not just having a thought, you are merging with it. You are identifying with it as if it were your core essence. And that is precisely where the thought wins, gaining total control. Beck called this paralyzing phenomenon cognitive fusion, and his thesis is as profound as it is frightening. Most of our emotional suffering does not come from the external world, not even from our deepest traumas, but from the way we think about them, and more dangerously, from how we automatically accept these thoughts as if they were objective, immutable truths. Thoughts like, I am fundamentally inadequate, no one really likes me, or everything will inevitably go wrong, are not simple ideas. They are distorted filters that interpret and color reality for you, shaping everything you see, feel, and subsequently do. You may believe you are in control, but if you cannot observe a thought without instantly identifying with it, if you cannot separate yourself from the content of your own mind, then who is truly running your life? The human mind, when left unexamined, acts like a relentless parasite. It inhabits your body, consumes your vital energy, and dictates your actions, all while you believe you are acting of your own free will. This journey is for those who have ever felt profoundly dominated by their own mind, for those who live in perpetual internal conflict and cannot articulate why, for those who are exhausted by negative thoughts that arise out of nowhere and hijack their entire day. And most importantly, it is for those who are ready to hear a truth that may hurt, but that can ultimately, irrevocably, set them free. If you do not learn to observe your thoughts, they will effortlessly control you. The good news, there is a way out, and it begins with what Beck called cognitive restructuring, the learned ability to create a necessary, protective distance between who you are and what you think. The great lie and the trap of fusion. Your mind lies to you, and perhaps the biggest, most damaging lie it tells is this: if I think something, then it must automatically be true. This is the very root of the illusion, the catastrophic confusion between a passing thought and your fundamental identity. When you think, "I am weak, I am stupid," or "I am not enough," your mind is not just creating a narrative, it is efficiently building a psychological prison, and you, unconsciously, willingly walk into it. Aaron Beck observed something devastating in his patients. They were not just suffering because of external events. They were suffering because they completely, blindly believed in every single negative thought that arose in their heads. They did not say, "I am having the thought that I am a failure." They simply declared, "I am a failure." This tiny linguistic difference reveals something much deeper. They were the thoughts. They had completely collapsed their identity with the automatic output of their mind. This is the definition of cognitive fusion. But stop and think for a moment. If you can observe a thought, then you are, logically, not the thought. The observer is never, ever what is observed. When a thought like, "I am not good enough," appears, it is simply that, a mental event, a transient phrase, an electrical spark in the brain. And yet, how many lives are derailed because of this small, simple illusion? How many massive dreams are prematurely abandoned? How many vital relationships are sabotaged? How many critical decisions are indefinitely postponed, all because of a thought that arose and was immediately, blindly believed? The trap lies in the naturalness with which these thoughts arise. They appear as if they are neutral, objective descriptions of reality, when in fact they are distorted interpretations, often inherited from traumatic past experiences, unresolved childhood conditioning, or even simple, repetitive societal programming. And the worst part? The more they repeat, the more absolutely true they seem. The human mind possesses a dangerous cognitive bias. What is repeated frequently is accepted as truth, even if it is pure toxic distortion. Beck termed these patterns negative automatic thoughts, NATs. They do not request permission. They do not announce their arrival. They fire the instant you face a challenge, a rejection, a mistake, or even a simple physical discomfort. And their impact is devastatingly immediate. They instantly activate intense emotions, trigger physical stress reactions, and forcibly change your behavior. But all of this only happens because you believe in them. Belief is the fuel of the mental prison. A thought only has power when you accept it as identity. It is at that precise moment that it ceases to be a mere idea and transforms into an unquestionable command. The mind, acting as an obedient system, then begins to organize everything in your reality to rigorously prove that thought was right all along. If you think, "No one likes me," you begin to behave defensively, distantly, perhaps even hostilely. People naturally pull away, and the mind triumphantly says, "See? I told you so." This is the vicious cycle of cognitive fusion. A thought generates an emotion, which generates a behavior, which relentlessly reinforces the original thought, and the wheel turns. It turns until you forget you are even inside it. It turns until you completely confuse yourself with what you think. And that is when the thought wins. The source, gnats and cognitive distortions. Within the human mind, there exists a mechanism operating constantly, silently in the background, like an invisible, self-sabotaging algorithm. This is the realm of negative automatic thoughts, gnats. These mental constructs are not elaborated, thought out, or reflected upon. They arise with the speed of a snap, the exact moment a stimulus appears. And the most paralyzing thing is that they feel absolutely real. You receive constructive criticism and your mind races. "I never do anything right. I'm completely incompetent." You see someone you care about, busy or distant, and you immediately conclude, "People always abandon me. I'm fundamentally unlovable." None of these thoughts were chosen. They simply emerged. And no matter how irrational they may appear under cold analysis, in the heat of the moment, they sound like absolute, undeniable truths. Beck realized that these gnats are not random. They are shaped by cognitive schemas, internal, deeply rooted structures built over a lifetime, often since early childhood. They act like distorted lenses through which you interpret the world. If those lenses were shaped by past rejections, unprocessed traumas, or constant harsh criticism, what you see will be equally distorted. The gnats are not just thoughts, they are emotional triggers. When you think, "I am useless," you immediately feel sadness, shame, or intense anger. Your body reacts, heart races, stomach tightens, muscles tense. This emotion then shapes your behavior. You withdraw, you self-sabotage, you shut down. This behavior, in turn, reinforces the initial thought. You acted like someone useless, and the mind confirms, "See, I was right." Beck classified the gnats according to patterns of cognitive distortion that are universal. Catastrophizing, the tendency to imagine the absolute worst possible scenario. A small mistake becomes a career-ending tragedy. A mild headache signals a terminal illness. Mind reading, believing you definitively know what others are thinking about you, and it's always negative. She thinks I'm pathetic. They are definitely laughing at my mistake. Overgeneralization. A single failure becomes proof that you always fail. This never works out. I ruin everything I touch. All or nothing thinking. Dichotomous thinking. Seeing things only in black and white. If you are not perfect, you are a complete failure. There is no middle ground, no nuance, no learning curve. Emotional reasoning. Believing that because you feel something, it must be true. I feel anxious, therefore something terrible must be about to happen. These 5 distortions create a parallel reality, a reality where everything seems hostile, dangerous, and without escape. And the cruelest part is, you genuinely believe you are seeing the world clearly. You don't realize you are trapped inside a maze built entirely by your own unquestioned thoughts. The mind does this because of its primitive function, survival. It prefers to err on the side of caution. But in modern life, this protective function has mutated into sabotage. The mind does not distinguish past from present, nor reality from imagination. A negative thought is enough to trigger the entire emergency alarm system, even if the thought is false. And if you are fused with that thought, it not only affects you, it commands you. You become a puppet of your own distorted cognition. But there is a breaking point, a moment when you can look at a thought and ask, wait, is this an objective truth, or is it just a repeated, conditioned pattern that I never once questioned? That simple question is the beginning of liberation. The solution: cognitive restructuring. Aaron Beck not only identified the trap, he meticulously designed the escape route. The tool is simple in concept, but utterly profound in its effect. Cognitive restructuring. A technical name for the essential skill that no one taught us in school: questioning our own thoughts. Most people live in a state of cognitive hypnosis. They react instantly to interpretations, not to facts. When a coworker is quiet, the mind decrees, "They are angry at me." When a small thing goes wrong, the internal voice fires, "You always mess everything up." The mind decrees, and you, the unwitting subject, obey. Cognitive restructuring breaks this cycle. It is the moment when you stop, observe, and deliberately ask, is that really empirically so? Instead of being a blind passenger, you take the steering wheel and begin driving with conscious awareness. Step 1. Becoming aware and distancing. The initial step is to name the thought. At first, you only notice the damage after the fact. But with practice, you start to catch the patterns. Instead of thinking, "I am incompetent," you consciously label it, "I am having the thought that I am incompetent." This is an immense transformative change. By saying, "I am having the thought that," you place yourself in the position of an observer. You create a vital space between the self and the mental content. That space is everything. It is the difference between being dominated and having a choice, between blindly reacting and consciously responding. Step 2. Interrogation and evidence. Decatastrophizing. The second step is to interrogate the thought. Beck proposed simple yet incredibly powerful questions. Is this a fact or merely an interpretation? What objective evidence supports this thought? What objective evidence directly contradicts it? Is there another, more balanced way to see this situation? These questions force the mind to shift from automatic mode to analytical mode. You cease to be the victim of the mental narrative and become its editor. A powerful specific technique here is decatastrophizing. When the mind screams the worst-case scenario, e.g., "If I fail this, my life will collapse," you ask, what is the actual worst-case scenario? If that happened, what would I do? Could I survive it? By facing the fear and mentally rehearsing a logical coping strategy, you expose the thought's hyperbole. Suddenly, the thought begins to lose its emotional strength. It ceases to be a dogma and becomes just a hypothesis. Step 3. Replacement and balance. The third step is to replace the dysfunctional thought with a more realistic and functional alternative. This is not about repeating fake affirmations. It is about building a new narrative based on evidence and balance. Instead of "I am a failure," you rephrase, "I have made mistakes, but I have also had achievements. I am currently learning and evolving. My mistake does not define my worth." This new way of thinking is not toxic optimism. It is clarity. It is recognizing reality without the distorting lenses. This process does not magically erase negative thoughts. They will continue to arise, but now, instead of automatically believing them, you see them for what they truly are: passing mental events, the predictable noise of the mind. And when you do not react to the thought, when you observe it, question it, and let it go, you break the spell. You regain control. Beck stated that the goal is not to eliminate negative thoughts, but to change the relationship we have with them. This is psychological freedom. It is when you look inside your mind and say, "I see you, but you do not define me." The emotional alchemy, distancing and presence. Most people believe their emotions are directly caused by external events. They lose a job, feel sadness. They receive criticism, feel anger. But Beck revealed the deeper truth. It is not the facts that determine what we feel, but the way we think about them. Emotion arises from the interpretation we make of reality. If you interpret the end of a relationship as "no one will ever love me again," it is not the breakup itself that generates the crushing pain. It is the catastrophic story your mind told about it. Emotional suffering is largely constructed, and if it is constructed, it can be dismantled. This is the true power of cognitive restructuring. It allows you to separate thought from emotion. When you observe a thought, instead of collapsing with it, you create an internal space where emotion does not automatically settle. You gain time to breathe, to reflect, to choose. This time is what differentiates a reflexive impulse from a conscious response. It allows you to feel anxiety without being consumed by anxiety, to notice anger without exploding in aggression. This space between stimulus and response is the territory of emotional freedom, and it is only accessible when you stop treating thoughts as absolute divine truths. When you understand that a thought does not need to be fought or eliminated, just observed and questioned, this skill, when cultivated, transforms your life. Situations that once triggered emotional crises begin to lose their impact. Comments that once felt deeply personal now sound neutral. Why? because your mind continues to produce gnats, but you no longer believe in all of them. You have developed what Beck called cognitive distancing, the ability to recognize that I am having a thought that this is terrible is definitively not the same as this is really terrible. Imagine the quiet, unshakable strength of someone who, faced with the thought, I am inadequate, can simply say, okay, this thought has appeared, but it is a mental story, not a reflection of reality. This is a form of power that does not shout, it does not fight. It silently redefines the internal experience. It is lucidity, it is emotional maturity, it is freedom. The inner sovereignty, reclaiming your essence. Now that you have learned to observe, it is time to go deeper. The human mind is an extraordinary machine, but dangerous when it operates without conscious supervision. Amidst its incessant flow, a transformative phenomenon must occur. You realize that you are the one who is thinking. This moment of metacognition, awareness of your own mental activity, is the key to a new kind of freedom. This is where the observer is born. The observer is that pure instance within you that watches, that notices, that recognizes without reacting. It is not reactive. It is not trapped in the urgency of fear or the need to be right. It simply sees. And in that seeing, the thought dissolves, because an observed thought loses its immediate commanding power. But cultivating this observer requires training, patience, and a constant posture of mindfulness. The mind will resist. It will scream. It will try to pull you back into identification using old stories, familiar phrases, and painful memories. It will try to convince you, this one is different, this one you must take seriously. But it is not. It is just another thought. When a gnat arises, I won't succeed. She rejected me because I am useless. You stop. You breathe. You name what is happening. I am having a negative automatic thought. This simple naming is already an act of disidentification. What once seemed an absolute truth now reveals itself as a temporary mental construct. Over time, you begin to anticipate the thoughts. You greet them, but you do not invite them in to dictate your life. They pass, and you remain. This is the power of the observer. It is the fixed point amidst the mental storm, the echoes of the past. But there is a final, critical layer to this liberation. When you observe your mind, you begin to perceive something even deeper. Many of the most destructive thoughts in your mind are not even yours. They were planted by voices from the past. Parents, teachers, siblings, traumatic experiences, social patterns. Phrases like, you are lazy, you will never succeed, or no one will love you this way, are not just memories. They are internalized thoughts that repeat as if they were your own personal ideas. But they are not. They are echoes, unchallenged echoes of the past that continue to operate in the present. These inherited voices have shaped your self-esteem, your choices, your perceived limits. They have created an identity based on fear, inadequacy, and guilt, and you believed it for years. The truth is brutal but liberating. For much of your life, you have been programmed, and that is why breaking this cycle is a matter of profound courage. Facing these thoughts with clarity means recognizing that you have been controlled by them, that you have acted against yourself, believing you were just being realistic. But you are not your mind, and you never were. The mind is a tool, and when you believe you are what it thinks, you become a slave to the instrument. When you sit on the throne of consciousness and start to use the mind instead of being used by it, everything changes. True freedom is not the absence of negative thoughts. It is the ability to see them without getting lost in them. It is looking at the mind and saying, I recognize this story, but I don't need to live it again. This is psychological autonomy. This is inner sovereignty. It is the power to stop, breathe, and consciously choose who you want to be, what you want to believe, and how you want to live. You are not the thought that you are weak. You are not the thought that you are not enough. You are the one who observes all of this and still remains. You are the space where all these thoughts come and go, and it is in this space that your true, unshakable power resides.